Hi there, this is Dr. Grace Ball. I'm one of the nursing faculty at Glendale Community College. I'm here today to present on the topic Flipped Classroom, engaging students before, during, and after class. So what is Flipped Classroom? Flipped Classroom is a pedagogical approach in which activities that have traditionally taken place in the classroom take place outside of the classroom, maybe at home, and that which takes place outside the classroom, like home or library, takes place inside the classroom. And this helps students to be more active and engaged in their classroom activities. Flipped classroom and Bloom's taxonomy. In the traditional model, teachers introduce new materials to students in the classroom, which according to Bloom's taxonomy translates to remembering and understanding. As they say, the sage on the stage function. Students are responsible for homework, which covers Bloom's applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating, which are actually higher order thinking. And that happened outside of the classroom, maybe at home or with their friends or in the library. So in the flipped model, this is reversed. Like the new material is introduced to students outside of the classroom through videos, through assigned readings, recorded lectures, and this is their homework to study the new material, and come prepared to class. And so in the class, the students and the teachers work together, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating those higher thinking materials that teachers can help the students achieve. The origins of the flipped classroom. John Bergman and Aaron Sams of Colorado began experimenting with technology to improve their in-person classroom time with students and eventually coined the term the flipped classroom. As the world of online videos and technology took off, Khan Academy popularized this further, starting with Khan's TED Talk in 2011. So why flip? Today's students grew up with internet and they're comfortable using technology. We all know that. Today's students need the constant touch with technology and social media to the extent that they get very antsy, get panic attacks if their phones or laptops are taken away from them. Research studies have showed that when students are allowed to use their powerful technology that they have in their pockets to learn new concepts, they're more engaged. It keeps the students more focused and they have more time to process and reflect on those concepts before they come to class. It's possible for teachers to focus on the more difficult topics and to what's necessary. It's also referred to as the just-in-time teaching. Each student studies at a different pace, we know that, and flipped classroom allows the students to be in control as to the time, the pace, and the place of learning. It takes time in the beginning for the instructor to get everything planned out and get everything going, but once it is done, then it's easy. And remember, we don't have to flip the whole course all at once. It can be done for 1 or 2 modules at a time and then work on the next 2 modules the next semester and so on. Flipped Classroom also adds variety and can cater to different learning styles. And evidence has shown that flipped classroom techniques allows for deeper understanding and retention of the concepts. Now, a fact. There is no one way of doing flipped classroom teaching. Each individual instructor can use their creativity and come up with their own styles. Now, this is my journey, or this was my journey. So the first step is buy-in. So that's very important. So we need buy-in from the administration, from the chair of the department, and also your students in particular. So we obviously have the administration support from our president as well as from CTLE, and that's why we are here today. We also have to explain to students clearly as to how the classes will be structured and what their responsibilities are. My department chair in nursing is all about using best practices in nursing education. And I also explained the structure as to how students will have to come prepared for the class in the syllabus so that students are aware. And also on the first day of class when I meet with them, I discuss about this in detail, and most importantly also tell the reasoning behind why I do what I do, and why I believe in flipped learning and why they have to come prepared to class in order to go to those higher level learning and thinking that that the students can work along with the teachers and solve those difficult problems. And we can also be with the students who are not getting it, and we can help them get it. The second step is to decide on the technology or resources we are comfortable with. There's no one way of doing this because there's tons of resources and technology out there. And in nursing, we use a number of online resources in nursing because at the end of their studies or their course, they have a licensure, a national licensure exam that they have to take and pass, and so that they can join the workforce right away. And so we do use some expensive online tools in our department. But there's also the freely available technology that anybody can use. I use in my class voiceover PowerPoints. I use YouTube videos, and like we don't have to create the videos ourselves. If you find a good online video on your topic, go ahead and use it for now. And when time permits, you can create your own. And you don't have to be perfect when you create your videos, because you don't have to take a million takes to have that perfect one. And after all that, you might discover a little problem, and then you might want to do it all over again. No, you don't have to do that. We stutter, we get thought blocks, we have all those things while we are in class, and they know it, they know us. And so it doesn't have to be perfect. Have a beginning, and then you can slowly perfect it in future. Like in one of my voiceovers, I had my husband bang the door shut, and he put on the music, and it stopped very fast. But then my students always get a kick out of that. And also, there was another slide where a dog, it wasn't my dog, but some dog was barking, and that was in there. And that made a conversation like, oh, do you have dogs? And no, I didn't, but it was there. So those little imperfections is what makes you, and they want that, and students love that. And if you can, the point is that be yourself, be at ease, and if you can be funny, even better. So the next step is, of course, to assign content for homework. Now, when you assign these homework, now remember these are new concepts. They may be easier concepts, but this is something that you want the students to do at home. You want the students to be prepared at home when you want them to be prepared when they come to class. And so it's important that you have clear and specific goals regarding the work that you want them to do, and you have to hold them accountable for completing the work. And there are so many different ways of doing this. You could either have them watch videos, or you can assign specific readings. And when you assign specific readings, it is important to, of course, tell the page numbers, but then not assign the whole chapter. Like, what is it that they really have to focus? Giving them like a guideline as to what is it that you want to think. Maybe you could put in some of those why questions, like why would that happen? So things like that, which will guide them to think, to ask those Socrates questions as they read, so they understand. So one way, so we're always concerned that, oh, we do these, but then they don't read it. So how can you make sure that they are watching your videos or doing your reading assignments? Well, there are many examples, like you can find in the literature, but I basically give them, I have questions or like fill in the blanks type of thing where they have to answer those. Or I might give them a quiz, like in Canvas you can put in a quiz, a 5-point quiz, so you know that they have read. Or you can have it, like if you're giving the notes, you can ask them to bring that to class. That will be their ticket to class. You can also, when they come, you can say that you will be having a quiz on this, and this will go into your grading, and you can use some exciting software there, like Jeopardy game or Kahoots or Poll Everywhere. Those are fun, kind of technology that can be used in order for the students to have some healthy competition and also to come prepared for class. Now, there are instructors who, like, I don't know if you listen to Beth and Friends in the morning radios. I listen to that on my way to work, but they have this new thing where they have some random words hidden every hour, and they pay $1,000. Well, we can't give $1,000, but then we can say some random things in there and then ask about that in class the next day, like, hey, what did you think about that? So you know that they have read it. It's not foolproof, but then that's a way of, if it's not like high stakes, you could do that. But for the most part, I use quizzes, or I have those skeletal notes where they are supposed to complete that before they come to class. So then comes the in-class activity. So in the in-class activity, for my classes, I usually have like 10 to 15 minutes mini lectures, or as they call it, the lecture buzz. And after that, I either give them a question and then ask them to pair and then say what they think about it or what was the right answer. Or I might ask them to write a 1-minute paper as to what would be the priority, or like whatever the topic might be. So then I also have them, like for higher level learning, I make them work in groups. Like right now for this semester, I'm in the I-1, the fire science building, and their classrooms the desks are more maneuverable. I can make groups of 4 very easily. And so I give them case studies or like questions where they have to solve them, or things like that. They basically work in groups, and then I go around the class and see if anybody needs help. But sometimes people especially students who have not read that particular chapter much in detail, they might have questions on, like, on their prerequisite kind of topics. So I would go ahead and explain to them like how things happen and things like that. So I basically have more time to those students who need more help. And and the other beautiful thing with group work is that students teach themselves. And when you teach something, when students teach, they remember that better, and because they have to understand first to be able to teach to the rest of them. So sometimes I may give small topics to the groups and ask them to take that little topic in that particular group. Or I might ask them to prepare on a topic as a group and then present in class. So there are various ways of doing this, but I know one thing is that in our we may not have enough time. I mean, not time, like we may not time, of course, but also the seating is not very conducive if you cannot move around the desks, and that was a problem. That is a problem. So I basically make each row of students to turn to each other, and so you don't waste time, going around finding out who you can pair up with. And then there are a lot of interesting activities out there, like escape room activities, pass the problem sheet. There are so many out there, which is beyond the scope of my topic right now. I don't have time to explain all of them. But then if you look for it online, there are a ton of materials out there. And, there's a YouTube video for everything that you want to know in life. So this was my class last semester, where we basically were working in groups, and like this in this classroom, the benches, the desks were all in a straight line. There's no way to move anywhere. So basically they turn around to each other, and so they worked in groups like that. So they still worked in groups of 4, but it was a very active class. It was a fun class, and like I basically went around and cleared their questions, and people who there were the smarty ones who always finished their task earlier, so I always had questions ready for them to do more. So those who finished got to finish the first task, they got more. As long as they were there, they kept getting questions or activities to do until the end of the class, and so that's how we rolled. So now at the end of the class, each group takes turn to present their work. If different activities were done by different groups, then the final paper will be posted in Canvas. Some of the, the tech-savvy students work on Google Docs so that everybody could contribute to one single document and then could be shared with the whole class. But either way, however it is presented, it needs to be presented, and so that everybody gets to know what was talked in all the other groups. And then at the end of the class, it is also important to allow for clarification and to summarize to make sure that the learning objectives were met. Now, there's always problems with anything new, right? We all know that. Resistance to change, that's a pro factor. So some of the realities and challenges, which is pretty common, is the instructors feel that there's an increased workload for the instructor. And this is true, but it's only in the beginning. So once your course is set, then it really is easy, because it's all there, and it would get better. And the main thing is to start somewhere. Instructors might need to decrease the course content, so that's the other important thing. Like sometimes when we are when we have too much knowledge about one particular topic, we want the students to know everything that we know, which is humanly not possible. So it's important to see what's the most important thing, like even after the students are done with their course, that they will remember. And so it's important to highlight, like, what are the main things like you want the students to know or to learn, to understand from that particular chapter. So it's important to hone in on that, on those particular topics that they must learn. And again, not all active learning strategies are feasible in large classes. So there are so many ways to do this. You can make small, like the think, pair, share, I think is the most helpful tool that doesn't need much time or effort, and it is helpful. So, I mean, the trick is in finding out what works best for your topic, for your course, for your class size, the physical setup of the classroom. So all that does play a role. And you will find that students will resist, like nobody likes change. And so if you explain it to them in the beginning of the class, it will work. Most students want them to, you're getting paid to teach, why don't you just teach it? And so it's our responsibility to tell them like how evidence, the role of the research and what are their findings and all that stuff. So that explanation is like really important. And be prepared for some students not being prepared. Like they don't want to do whatever. I'll study in school and that's it. And so you will have those, and even in regular classes, traditional classes, you have those students who won't pay attention, who who waste their time, or they may not be engaged. So you will have those in whatever format you teach. So you might want to have a conversation with that student and see how you can help them. And learning technology, again, you don't need to know all the technology that's out there. Whatever it is that you are comfortable with, start somewhere. It can be like really small. It doesn't have to be highly complex technology. It can be something very simple. But the thing is, you need to start somewhere. So for me, I found using PowerPoint, the voice-over PowerPoint is pretty easy. Screencast-O-Mat is something that a lot of people use and they love using those. Recently I used the video scribe, which is very fun, but it has a subscription, $160. I just paid once, but I haven't made too many of those, but those are fun. How like the hand, it looks like you're writing on the board. I don't know if you have seen that, but it's pretty cool. But there are a bunch of free resources out there. It's just a matter of talking to people, surfing in the net, and finding out what works. And in closing, I would like to say that flipped teaching plus active learning equals amazing educational possibilities. If you've never done flipped teaching in some way or the other, it's just a matter of starting somewhere. And in flipped teaching, you can add a lot of gamification, and you can make it fun. You can have different stations with fun activities that students can work out. I mean, again, each class is different. Some classes don't like to get up from their seats at all, while there are others who they just want to keep jumping around. The other day in my class, I made them present on a little topic, and they were all doing yoga and meditation the first 10 minutes of my class, and they loved it. And so it's just that we have to start. So however small that might be, once you take that initial step, then you will see that it pays off. So that's my presentation. I hope you learned something. As Mark Twain says, the secret to getting ahead is getting started. So good luck. Go ahead and get started, and I will see you in class. Thank you. Bye-bye.